My name's Mia Jackson, and I'm with Authentic African Clothing. And today I want to show you how to put together the 3-layer face mask for filtering unwanted particles out of the air. So the materials needed is inner cotton. I generally like a thinner cotton, 100%, just so you can tell it's the two different sides. And then a outer cotton, also 100%, is a little bit heavier cotton. And for the filter layer, we use the Scott, or you can use other brands, but Shop Towels, which you can find at automotive stores, Costco, Walmart, although they've been sold out. So those are the 3 things that we use. You'll also need scissors, pins, and a sewing machine to get this going. And so we need to cut 2 layers of each of the materials. I'm going to show you how we do the pinning for this. You want to have, I do it in 4 layers so you can get multiples at the same time. But, oh, I'm sorry, I did forget about the pattern. We are using the Crafty Quilter pattern from craftyquilter.com. Her face mask pattern has instructions as well, and it includes the seam allowance of 1/4 inch. Ready? And so if you don't have a printer, you can trace the pattern at 80% zoom off of your computer. And I'm using a Papermate because it doesn't bleed through. But once you just get a piece of white paper and open your laptop to trace that, keeping it as still as possible. And I recommend always writing inner and outer on your pattern. Ready? And this also has the outer face mask that you can trace as well, and all the instructions. So just cut out on a regular piece of paper, cut as many as you need so that you can do multiples at once, make things a lot easier. And you can see that I've staggered them back and forth. I would do it as close as possible so that you can get the maximum amount of patterns from each piece of fabric. So I pin facing outward always, and that's, I can't tell you why at this moment, but you stick in, lift slightly, but while holding it, and then push through. That way you don't have to push your hand underneath the fabric all the time. And again, that stick down, lift slightly, holding, and push through. I pin 4 corners so that it's easier to cut. And as an inexperienced person, I would also pin here just to make it easier to go around that curve. Use the sharpest scissors that you have so that it can give you a nice clean cut. Try to get as close as you can to the pattern. It just makes it easier to, when you're guiding it through the sewing machine, to know that your seam allowances are straight. Okay. And so after you cut that, rinse and repeat, cover those. Also cut your outer using the same method. This one is stacked 4 times, folded in half. and then stacked 3 times so that, and it's precise as possible on the edges. And this is so that you can get as many as possible out of one cut, just saving time for making a lot of things at once. So do your cutouts. And this is kind of the tedious part because you have to cut the inner, the outer, and the blue filter material. Okay, last piece. All right, so now you have your lining cut, you have your outer cut, and you just need your filter material. So because these are paper towels, sort of, they're not woven, which is why they make such good filter material. We sew them in so that, because they're strong enough to wash. This is doubled back and forth 4 times, but I recommend not cutting on the perforation because that weakens it. And when it's in the mask, you want it to be as strong as possible for multiple washing. So put it right up to the end of the towels. Do your same pinning 4 corners. And you see, I am again maximizing. You can get 4 to a towel. So maximizing the amount of things that you cut out. And same thing, pin all 4 and then cut. When you're done with it, you'll have this cut. Okay. All right, so this is all your pieces. Get them out. And you'll have your inners and outers, which we're going to make into what I call a little sandwich. So this is the filter and the lining. Separate your linings and insert the cotton, 2 layers inside. Match those up. Uh-oh. Match those up. Nope. Okay. So this, you need your cover, 2 pieces, right sides together, and you need the lining little sandwich. Okay, we're gonna go sew. For speed of sewing, there's a couple of things that I recommend. Use the foot of the sewing machine as your guide so you don't have to remember and measure. And for the linings, you don't have to back up because they're going to just be sandwiched in something else. So go ahead and use your foot to guide you. And when you're sewing a lot, you can just keep attaching them, which I will show you. One, you slow down to the end and then put another one and keep going. So when you're making a lot, This just makes it so that you don't have to stop and cut and stop and cut. All right, so we have two for an example. You also need to sew your outer. I always start from the bottom of the curve. This is the top of the mask, and this is the bottom. Starting from the bottom gives you less stretch. And again, I'm just continuing on because I don't want to waste time stopping and cutting. This one I am going to back up because it's the outer mask and we don't want it to split when it's done. All right, so may I have a scissors, Greg? So here's your 3 layers for your mask, the outer and the inner. That's your outer, okay, like that. And your inner, we hem the sides. Oh, that's messy. And again, when I'm in production, I'm attaching them.
Can you do that slower? Sorry.
Sure.
Wait, what did you just do? You flipped it over?
Oh.
I couldn't see it on the camera.
Here's the 4 layers, okay? And so I'm going to sew this edge, which is the wrong side, as you see the sewed side, and make a small hem on the edge. Okay. And then if I had another one, I would add it and keep going. Okay. I'm gonna take that off. Okay. And then we do the other side. So yes, the inner. Hold it about, I don't know, it's 1/4 of an inch roughly. And put it under the machine and go ahead and sew it. Okay. All right. So after you've sewn this center edge and hemmed the 2 sides, you trim it here. If you have a zigzag scissor, I recommend using that. But if you don't, just trim it as close as you can, all of them. Okay. And the reason you trim it is so when you turn it right side out, it just makes it so that it will lay down. Okay. All right. So you have your outside. You've trimmed it and you lay the inner over it. Kind of pull them snug together. Match up the seams. Okay, now these are right sides together now. Okay, you match up the 2 seams and lay that on the machine to sew. Here, you slow down so that you can back up because this is a stress point right here where these 2 the opening is. And then keep on going to the other side. You'll want to back up also at this other stress point. This is for durability, okay? And then you turn it over and sew the top as well. So kind of fiddle with it until it's as smooth as possible together. And start your seam a little ahead. Come to, when you get to the edge, go a couple, back up. All right. And then as fast as you are comfortable, go around this curve. I'm flattening it out slightly. Come on. And following it around, still using the edge of the foot as my guide. And then I back up again when I get to the edge. So this is the part where I would ask if there is any questions. If you can see, you've got your little opening here. The filters on the inside, it's sewn in. At this point, you want to turn it inside out. And form the mask. Okay, here we go. That's that. Now, another thing for durability is to sew the edges. Clean this all up. And so starting from the edge, when you turned it, it made a little fold. And so sew that down, because when you string it, it will make it so it's easier to put the string through. Here again at the opening, you back up over it, and I'm using the edge of my foot as a guide, so I don't have to think about how wide this is. So sew it through, back up, that stress point to the end. Turn it over. Okay, so we got one half sewed down. Let's sew down the other half. So what I'm doing on the nose here is kind of rolling up the fabric so that it's as flat as possible. You can see it makes it a little flatter there. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start at the edge, my foot down. So right there, using the foot as the guide. Back up. Oh, shoot. Join. All right. So after you sew both ends, see, it looks great. Pretty much done here now. Clean up cut all the strings off and hem the edges, and we have a mask done. Strings. So the edges. Now, everything exact. But you saw on the pattern, it was like 1/4 of an inch and a 5/8 of an inch, what made it seem kind of confusing. Basically, all it means is fold twice. Small fold here, and then roll it up again.
Can you do it one more time?
Sure. So you got the end of your mask edge from the inside. Fold here one time, and then one more time here. So that it's like a little roll, and then you want to tack that down. So start your sewing, back up. Anytime you're on the edge of something, you back up to give it more strength. So both sides. Okay. And then we do the same thing on the other side. If you can see it, I'll do it again. Small folds, and then one bigger fold to make like a little sausage roll. Tack that down. Sorry, strings are all in the way. But tack that down. Back up at the very end, sewing right off the edge of the mask, and cut all your strings. Okay, So now you have your whole mask completed. Here's this. This is the nose area. The filter is nice and sewn in. If someone wants to add a second filter, there's this pocket here. You can add another filter. The only thing to do now is to string it. And for string, you can use either elastic or yarn or bias tape or strips of cloth, whatever you have handy. So we use yarn, and about 45 inches is a good length for an adult. So this one is, okay, so it starts off at 45 inches, then knotted and strung. Oh. About that, took me a second. All right. And so I only use one string to make it faster. And a needle or a safety pin will work to pull it through and string the other side. And well, if you're lucky, you'll. Sorry. Got it. All right. So, got your second half. Do your knot. And that's just to keep it so that when you're washing it, it won't fall out. And then you have your mask is complete. The way that it's worn is you put the mask behind your head so that it loops like that. And you adjust to your face and adjust by pulling out. It's a good fit. And yeah, that's how you make your mask. Thank you, everybody. Monica needed a